everybody. I'm Cecilia Oduar, and I'm speaking to you from Madrid, Spain. And just to tell you that I was very happy to be part of the conversation with our ECOSOC youth group a couple of days ago. And now this group, it's made up of the younger members of both the Congregation of Jesus and Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary under 32, and not exclusively members, but also other youth connected with the Mary Ward family. And thanks, first of all, to Francesca, our youth representative in New York, who organized this. I just loved listening to these young people, mainly from India and from Africa, sharing on their experience of the pandemic at the moment. And I suppose, first of all, I just heard beautiful human behavior, For example, in intergenerational communities, where the younger members are really caring for the older and most vulnerable to this pandemic. It's beautiful just to hear how they take care of themselves, make sure that the older members and the older sisters are in safe care. That was beautiful. Then, on the other hand, the leave no one behind. That came out very strongly in the conversation, the beautiful work being done with the migrant population in India, where they have no state aid because they have no documents, usually when they're migrant people, and they're the group that's really left behind. And I thought it was beautiful to hear those young women just talk about how they are helping out there in their local areas and themselves and with other religious communities as well, to make sure that everybody has food, first of all in the locality, and then broader access to the migrant population. So it was a beautiful conversation. We're lucky to have had it, and lucky to have this group of younger people within our network that bring hope and lots of possibilities for the future. So in the middle of all of this is just a beautiful ray of hope. So thank you very much, and happy Easter, and I hope you have very blessed holy days these days. Thank you.
The world is vulnerable due to the pandemic known as coronavirus. The busy minds are less busy and physical movement is limited. I see the whole situation as an invitation for each of us to light a candle of solidarity from where we are. As the young generation, let us become aware that we can reach out to the needs of others, both far and near, through giving donations to those lacking basic needs due to the lockdown, offering counseling through the different channels of communication to those who may be stressed and afraid of the future. We can create small groups of youth reaching out to other youth through social communication networks to tell a positive narrative of life after the pandemic. We keep our loved ones close to our hearts in prayer, and together we weave a web of love during and after the pandemic. There is hope. There will be life after COVID-19. I have been reminding myself that while it is imperative that we act in the present to reduce the damage of COVID-19, it is also important that the pandemic does not mask many of the issues that the global community has been fighting and advocating for decades. Issues such as the climate crisis, the refugee crisis, access to clean water, access to education. These issues do not stop because of the pandemic, but in many cases, their effects are exacerbated. How can we continue to advocate for global challenges from a distance, while being sensitive to the circumstances related to the current pandemic? Most importantly, in a time filled with confusion and sadness, how can we continue to be inspired and enthused about our advocacy and open space to connect and collaborate? The quarantine COVID-19 is an opportunity for everyone to put his or her house in order through recollection, reflection, and conversion. In my reflection, I have come to appreciate the heroes of this global challenge: healthy workers, security personnel, government servants, and volunteers who are risking their lives to serve those infected and affected by the pandemic. They are following the example of Jesus, who came to serve, not to be served. I ask myself, what is my heroic contribution in this dilemma? My heart goes out to those who, despite their willingness to combat the COVID-19 in line with the guidelines given, are not able to do so due to their circumstances. Like people living in crowded places can't practice social distancing, those who work for daily wages and live from hand to mouth can't stay at home. Children who have no access to the internet can't study online. COVID-19 is a call from God to His people to be like His Son in serving to the extent of taking a risk, to share love, talents, and abilities. The lockdown is a reminder to respect the freedom of the living species of our environment. We walk graciously in faith and trust in God above all human abilities. Let us all abide by the rules and regulations given by our governments and health departments. Wash hands, stay at home, maintain the social distance, and keep safe to minimize the spread of the virus. Your health is also my health. Let us offer all our sorrows and grievances to the Almighty God and have hope that one day this virus will come to an end. Let us continue praying for those who are infected and affected, and for those who have gone without being prepared, that they may have eternal rest. It is in the midst of this pandemic that we are able to come to terms with the reality of living and remaining strong in our faith. During this time, I have found myself uniting more with the love of God to humanity despite the crisis. I spend more time with myself, reflecting and searching for God in all. This is when the reality of remaining connected to God in all circumstances makes more sense than ever. It is a moment to appreciate and become aware of the gift of freedom we enjoy and God's goodness and faithfulness in our daily activities. We now recognize that all we have belongs to Him. I can't help thinking of how many people are suffering during this time through isolation from their loved ones, loss of loved ones, and lack of basic needs. My prayer is that God will take care of His people amidst all this. As we seek God's mercy and healing during this time, let us remember the invitation of Pope Francis to trust and call on the Lord to calm the storm. This pandemic started in China, but it has affected almost all parts of the world by spreading from person to person. This virus is a distraction to humanity, but it also has a positive impact on us. It helps us deepen our relationships with our families, communities, and friends. It is a time to understand the values of religious worship, government services, the services of policemen, doctors and nurses, and the others who are involved in cleaning public places. It is also a time to feel with the poor and needy by sharing with them what we have. As a whole, it is a time to be united with and rooted in God alone, who is the master of our lives and King of the universe. As our Mother Mary once said, "Let thy love be at all times rooted in God." Dear friends, stay home, be safe, and save the world. As believers, our utmost strength at this moment remains prayer. Dear Lord, have mercy on your people suffering due to the corona pandemic. It is too big for us to overcome on our own. Listen to the cry of all your people in the world. It is only you, O God, who can save us from this situation. You are our Father. Rescue us from the deadly virus. Our hearts are sorrowful and deeply depressed after losing our brothers and sisters due to the coronavirus. We humbly ask you to receive their souls into your eternal rest. For those infected and affected, may you intervene. Amen. The outbreak of COVID-19 leads me to reflect about the essence of life. As long as we live, what matters at the end is Christ. So let us be encouraged and have hope. Let us be reminded that from Him we came with nothing, and to Him we shall return with nothing when the time comes. Therefore, do not be afraid.
Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid.